So, you had a relationship with them, right? You were more than just a teacher. And once they were
Definitely.
able to see you, outside of the classroom and connect and say, okay, he understands us, he gets what we're going through, then they're able to open up and really be themselves and not just try to keep that hardcore mentality or hard outer shell that, many kids feel like they have to portray in a school environment.
Oh yeah, because but so like I'm actually that's the book I'm working on now. But like kids aren't going to just open up and just tell you things about themselves that aren't positive, right? You're like, I
Right.
don't even trust the adults who have been in my life. So why would I just come directly in and start sharing these vulnerable situations with you? Um,
Mm.
you have to build up to that because it happens, but it doesn't happen in our time, so to speak. You have to let it organically just kind of take its course and let it be what it's going to be over the course of that time, and not get caught up into putting a timestamp on it. Like I never did that. I was fair, firm, and consistent, right? If you're fair, firm, and consistent, kids will respect it. And you got to have your boundaries. And I was human, and I allowed myself to be human with them, and we learned and grew from each other. So it was fun, man. We had a lot of fun.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I like that. Fair, firm, and consistent. And that's truly what, that's parenting, that's mentorship, that's accountability, that's can be that line transcends across many different fields. So yeah, I like that.
Sure.
And then tell us about your I Am Possible enterprise. Talk to us about that.
Well, so teaching. So I taught for a number of years. I taught for 10. Let me see, 10, 11, right? So I taught, and then I was a restorative practices coordinator. And um, when COVID came, so I love to read, I love to write. So I had written books about, well, how it really started was my first daughter, who's 10 now, was born. And I'm like ready to be super dad, man. I like bought a camera and a camcorder, and I'm like ready, right? And so reading was always important in my household. My mom was big on reading. So I went and I was trying to find books for my daughter that had protagonists that were Black females, and there weren't that many. And so, being an educator, I started looking up, and I found out that like only 12% of um, protagonists were less than 12% were characters of color. And I'm like, no wonder I can't really find that many books. So I'm like, okay, well, instead of complaining about it, I'm like, I believe that the Black dad, the state of the Black father, is definitely, that story is not told in a positive light. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna write a book about being a dad. And so instead of just complaining, I wrote a book. And I literally, at the time, I'm still in the classroom. I was a restorative practice coordinator. I had no intentions of being a business person, right? But I released my first book, and God started talking to me and telling me that He wanted me to do more. And so my spirit led me to leaving the school district, which I just left officially this summer. So last year I took a leave of absence, but in releasing that first book, that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey and starting I Am Possible, because I am, for my believers out there that know that God is spirit. God shall be known as I am. That's told to us in the Bible. And so I knew the power of God. And so God was leading me into something else. And I released my first book. And so then I started that company. And then here we are 2 years later. I released the second book in February. And actually, my 10-year-old daughter released a book in February. She was 9 at the time. So we released a book together. My second book, her first. And so now,
Nice.
I was able to add my daughter as an author to the family, man. So right now, what I'm doing with that is I am offering professional development training for teachers in different areas, and I am offering speaking engagements. Speaking about social emotional learning and authentic relationships for teachers, and then also my story of being, a former athlete that transitioned into life after sports. So the sky's the limit, man. We're going to continue to do this thing, but now I'm an independent contractor, and God wanted me to share my voice around the world. So it's been a
That's
pretty
awesome.
interesting roller coaster so far, but it's helped me to be a better me.